Hello, this is Nick Saint-Erne, or in the Kingdom of Atenvelt. I'm known as Nicholas de Navarre. And today I'm going to make for you a meat pie. But from my last recipe, I actually had a lot of the compost left over. And so what I'm going to do is I'm using the leftover compost along with some chicken to make my meat pies. Now the recipe for this pie is something I've been doing for a long time. And I make the pies and I can freeze them and bring them with me when I go to medieval reenactments. Then just cook them over the fire each day for when we're ready to eat. So when I first found this recipe, it came from a magazine called Medieval History, issue 6, February 2004. And when I got this issue, I found inside of it, it has a recipe for pies of Paris, which is an ancient meat pie. And it's a really great recipe, and I've been using it ever since this came out. And it was the first medieval cooking I've ever done. I'm going to read the recipe for you. It says, Pies de Paris. Take and smite fair butts of pork and butts of veal together, and put it on a fair pot, and do thereto fresh broth, and a quantity of wine, and let it boil all together till it be cooked enough. Then take it from the fire, and let it cool a little. Then cast thereto yolks of eggs, and powder of ginger, sugar and salt, minced dates, and raisins of currants. Then make a fair paste, and coffins, and do thereon. Cover it, and let it bake, and serve forth. Here I'm making the fair paste, or pie dough, for the coffin, which is what the empty pie shell is called. You can use any pie crust recipe, or simply use flour, water, and a little salt. Mix the dough thoroughly, and then roll it out flat. Butter the inside of a baking dish, and then line the dish with the dough. Be sure the inside of the dish is completely covered with the dough. You can make a large pie, or I prefer to make individual servings of meat pies using small oven-safe dishes. Also, make lids for each of the pies. Bake the shells empty for 20 minutes at 350 degrees Fahrenheit. If cooking in a Dutch oven using coals, that is about 8 coals under the Dutch oven and 17 coals on top of the lid. Make sure the coals are spread around evenly beneath the oven and on the lid. After 10 minutes of cooking, rotate the lid of the Dutch oven. You can check to see how the pie crusts are cooking. And then rotate the oven over the coals to ensure even heating throughout the baking. At 20 minutes, the coffins should be baked firm, and it's time to fill them. For my meat pie filling, I used a roasted chicken that I had purchased already cooked from the grocery store, and cut the breast meat up, making about 2 cups of meat. I then mixed the chicken meat with 2 cups of the compost that was left over from my last medieval cooking video. The original recipe calls for meat broth, a quantity of wine, egg yolks, powder of ginger, sugar, salt, minced dates, and currants. You can use whatever you like and you have at hand. Here I'm adding a half a teaspoon of salt and a half a teaspoon of pepper mixed together. 1 tablespoon of sugar, 4 tablespoons of cider vinegar, which will cut the sweetness to give it a sweet and sour flavor. Use about a cup of chicken broth and a cup of sweet wine. I used Marsala. Be sure the filling mix is moist, as it'll dry when baked. Now fill each pie shell with the mix. Be sure not to overfill, as the lid needs to be sealed onto the rim of the bottom shell with egg whites. Place the lid on using the egg white around the edges. Press the edge of the lid down firmly onto the side shell. Wash the top of the coffin lid with egg white, and then attach a decoration device made from the leftover dough. Bake these in the oven for 30 minutes at 350 degrees until the top crust is brown. "30 minutes later. When the tops are browned, serve them forth." We're going to cut into one of the pies and see how it tastes. I really like it. So this is a pie that I've been making for a long time. It's normally made with meat. I usually use chicken, with currants, raisins, dates, and figs. And then it's got a little wine and ginger as the standard recipe. But I've used the compost in it. The compost already has a really good flavor. So when I make this, I just added a little more wine, a little bit of salt and pepper, along with the chicken meat. And it really has a great flavor to it. I think I even like it maybe better than the original recipe. It has a nice filling, and of course with the compost, it has a lot of root vegetables in it, which gives it kind of a nice, like a pot pie filling. Definitely worth making. I hope you enjoyed this. Thank you for watching.